Right now, beneath the most beautiful alpine lake in North America, something is shifting. Something that has not moved in over 4,000 years. The force pressing down on it just reached its legal maximum. Lake Tahoe has surged to 6,229 feet. The drought is over, the beaches are full, and 39 trillion gallons of water gleam under the Sierra sun. But deep beneath that shimmering surface, all of that weight is pressing down on a fractured slab of Earth that scientists believe is centuries overdue for a catastrophic rupture. What if the very thing that saved this lake is now loading the trigger beneath it? What if the next sound this basin hears is not a thunderstorm, but the deep groan of the Earth tearing itself apart? To understand how we got here, you have to go back just a few years, back to a time when Lake Tahoe was dying. By the early 2020s, after what scientists described as the driest 22-year stretch in 1,200 years across the American West, Lake Tahoe was in crisis. The Sierra Nevada snowpack had collapsed, and the tributaries feeding the lake slowed to a whisper. The lake dropped below its natural rim at 6,223 feet, severing the only outlet into the Truckee River. Boat ramps sat stranded on dry gravel, and marinas shuttered their doors. As in past droughts, the receding waterline revealed what the depths had hidden. Ancient tree stumps, some over 5,000 years old, ghosts of a lake that had retreated before. The air smelled of dried pine and hot stone, and the exposed lakebed cracked in the autumn heat. But that was only the beginning of the story. Then the sky opened. Starting in late 2022 and accelerating through the winter of 2023, California was struck by a relentless barrage of atmospheric rivers. 17 moisture-laden storms slammed the Sierra Nevada between December and March alone. The snowpack soared to 237% of its April 1st average, one of the largest accumulations ever recorded in the state's history. The meltwater came fast. 63 tributaries roared back to life, feeding billions of gallons into the basin in a matter of weeks. A single quarter-foot rise in Lake Tahoe requires roughly 12 billion gallons of water. The volume needed to push the surface from drought low to legal ceiling is almost beyond comprehension. What came next shocked even the scientists. By the summer of 2024, the lake had surged past 6,229 feet, pressing against the legal maximum set by federal court decree. Water managers scrambled to release maximum outflows through the dam at Tahoe City, struggling to keep the surface from breaching the limit. The media celebrated. Headlines declared the drought crisis over. But the celebration was premature. While the public focused on water levels and the return of summer tourism, seismologists at the Nevada Seismological Laboratory had already been tracking something unsettling. In 2021, a series of small to moderate earthquake swarms shook the Tahoe region, reminding researchers that the basin's faults remain active and that seismic monitoring here is far from routine. These were tiny events, too small for anyone to feel. But given what lies beneath this lake and the enormous new load now pressing down on it, some researchers began asking whether the restored water weight could be adding stress to an already volatile system. And the faults never stopped moving. The basin that holds Lake Tahoe did not form from glacial carving or volcanic eruption. It was born from tectonic violence, as the Sierra Nevada range rose along a system of north-south trending faults over millions of years. The valley between those faults dropped, forming the deep trough that would become one of the world's deepest freshwater lakes. And the forces that created it are still at work. Running along the western floor of Lake Tahoe, at depths between 400 and 500 meters, lies the West Tahoe Fault. It stretches approximately 45 kilometers from near Emerald Bay in the south to beyond Tahoe City in the north. Researchers at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography have mapped it in extraordinary detail using high-resolution chirp seismic imaging. What they found is sobering. The West Tahoe Fault is capable of producing an earthquake up to magnitude 7.3. That is not theoretical, but a calculation based on the fault's length, displacement history, and rupture offsets measured in underwater scarps and sediment cores. But the magnitude alone is not what keeps researchers awake at night. Using sediment cores, chirp surveys, and radiocarbon dating from the lakebed and nearby Fallen Leaf Lake, scientists have reconstructed the fault's rupture history. Scripps researchers estimate that a magnitude 7 earthquake occurs somewhere in the basin every 2,000 to 3,000 years, while the West Tahoe Fault itself appears to rupture on a cycle closer to 3,000 to 4,000 years. The last significant rupture happened roughly 4,100 to 4,500 years ago. That puts the fault several centuries past its expected recurrence interval. According to Graham Kent, director of the Nevada Seismological Laboratory, the West Tahoe Fault is approximately 750 years overdue for a rupture event. The strain that has been accumulating along that locked fault for millennia has not gone anywhere. And now, sitting directly on top of it, is the heaviest the lake has been in years. This is where the physics becomes deeply unsettling. Lake Tahoe holds approximately 39 trillion gallons of water, roughly 150 cubic kilometers of mass resting on fractured bedrock. At maximum legal capacity, the additional water stored above the natural rim represents billions of tons of continuous vertical pressure. That weight is not passive. It is an active force bearing down on stressed geology every second of every day. To understand why that matters, you need to understand a concept called reservoir-induced seismicity. For more than 6 decades, scientists have documented cases where large water bodies have triggered earthquakes. The phenomenon operates through 2 mechanisms. The first is direct vertical loading, where the sheer weight of water increases stress on the underlying crust. The second is pore pressure infiltration, where water seeps through rock fractures, reducing the friction that holds fault surfaces locked in place. Think of it like lubricating a rusted hinge that has not moved in thousands of years. The pressure does not create the energy, but it can release what has been building for millennia. This is not speculation, it is documented science. The 1967 Koyna Dam earthquake in India, magnitude 6.3, killed 180 people and was attributed to reservoir loading. The Kariba Dam between Zambia and Zimbabwe triggered a magnitude 6.2 event 5 years after impoundment began. At Lake Oroville in California, a magnitude 6.1 earthquake in 1975 was linked to the filling of a large dam. The National Academies of Sciences has confirmed that reservoirs can advance the timing of earthquakes on pre-stressed faults. But what happened at those sites involved artificial reservoirs built behind dams. Lake Tahoe is a natural basin, not a man-made impoundment. No study has directly confirmed that its water levels have triggered seismic events, but based on what we know about how mass loading and pore pressure interact with pre-stressed faults, the physical principles could apply here just as they do behind any large dam. The water does not know the difference between a reservoir and a tectonic graben. The physics does not care. And that is what makes this convergence worth serious scrutiny. A fault capable of magnitude 7.3, with a rupture interval exceeded by centuries, thousands of years of accumulated strain with no release, and a lake at maximum legal capacity sitting directly above it all. Each of these factors alone would warrant serious monitoring. Together, they could imply a compounding hazard, what some researchers have quietly described as one of the most underappreciated seismic risks in the western United States. And the tremors have not stopped. The microseismic events detected around the basin are individually insignificant, most registering below magnitude 2.0. No one feels them, no buildings shake, and no alarms sound. But seismologists do not measure concern by what the public can feel. They measure it by what the instruments reveal about the stress regime deep beneath the surface. These tremors could represent harmless background activity or minor stress adjustments that actually reduce overall danger. Based on patterns observed elsewhere, they could also be interpreted as foreshocks, small fractures that sometimes precede a larger rupture on a fault locked far too long. The honest answer is that no one knows for certain which interpretation is correct, but the ground had one more secret. Even if the earthquake were the only threat, it would be devastating, but the quake itself might not be the deadliest part of what happens next. Lake Tahoe's underwater topography is extreme, dropping from shallow shelves to depths exceeding 500 meters along steep, sediment-laden walls. Loose glacial deposits blanket these slopes, much of it only marginally stable. A major earthquake would shake those slopes violently. Sediment cores analyzed by Scripps and the USGS confirm that past earthquakes triggered massive underwater landslides, with between 14 and 17 such events identified in the last 12,000 years. And the signs were already spreading. The McKinney Bay landslide is proof that catastrophe has struck this lake before. During the late Pleistocene, an 8-kilometer-wide section of Tahoe's western wall collapsed, sending roughly 12 cubic kilometers of rock and sediment 15 kilometers across the lake floor. It was the second largest quaternary landslide on the North American continent. Based on modeling of the displaced water volume, researchers estimate the tsunamis generated may have reached heights on the order of 100 meters, scouring the surrounding shores and carving massive underwater canyons still visible today. A future rupture need not replicate that scale to be catastrophic. Computer modeling by researchers at the University of Nevada, Reno, working with tsunami experts from Japan's Geological survey, showed that a magnitude 7 event could send waves reaching 3 to 10 meters at the shoreline. In an ocean, a tsunami warning might give communities hours to evacuate. At Lake Tahoe, the wave would cross the basin in minutes. There would be almost no time between the shaking and the impact. More than 55,000 people live around the Tahoe Basin year-round. During peak summer months and ski season, the population can swell to 300,000 on any given day, with roughly 15 million visitor days logged annually. South Lake Tahoe, Tahoe City, Incline Village, Kings Beach, and State Line sit directly on or near the shoreline. Many of these people would be within the impact zone, and most would have no idea what was coming. On any summer morning, you can find a kayak rental operator setting up along the shore near Kings Beach. She knows this lake in all its moods, the glassy stillness of August dawns, the sleek gray chop of October storms, the way the wind shifts before snow rolls in from the northwest. The lake always comes back, she told a group of tourists one afternoon, stacking paddles against the dock while the water lapped softly beneath her feet. She did not know about the fault when she said it, but the ground beneath her dock does. The geography of the basin makes rapid evacuation nearly impossible. The roads ringing the lake are predominantly narrow, 2-lane mountain highways that routinely back up for miles during peak season. A magnitude 7 earthquake would crack pavement, trigger rock falls on mountain passes, and simultaneously send a wall of water toward every community on the shore. The basin also straddles 2 states, 5 counties, and multiple overlapping jurisdictions requiring near-instant coordination. And the infrastructure to warn people simply does not exist. Unlike ocean-facing communities with dedicated siren networks and marked evacuation routes, the Lake Tahoe Basin has no tsunami-specific warning infrastructure. Some local emergency pages acknowledge the possibility, but there are no dedicated evacuation zones and no signs telling tourists where to run if the lake itself becomes the threat. No widespread public education campaign has ever been conducted to prepare residents or visitors for an inland tsunami generated by the fault directly beneath them. The distance between what scientists know and what the public is ready for has never been wider. Scientists today have powerful tools. The Nevada Seismological Laboratory operates seismic stations throughout the basin. GPS sensors track ground deformation, and satellites measure surface changes. Sediment cores reveal thousands of years of rupture history, and CHIRP sonar has mapped the underwater faults in extraordinary detail. The monitoring effort is real and ongoing. But there is one wall that no amount of technology has been able to breach. Earthquakes cannot be predicted with any reliable timeline. Scientists can identify the fault, measure accumulated strain, observe tremors, and model scenarios down to the meter of wave height. But they cannot tell you whether the rupture will happen tomorrow, next year, or 3 centuries from now. That fundamental limitation defines every conversation about the West Tahoe Fault. Based on recurrence intervals inferred from the region's fault history, some researchers have estimated the probability of a magnitude 7 quake beneath Lake Tahoe at roughly 3 to 4% within the next 50 years. In seismology, those numbers are not small. They carry genuine weight. Yet the West Tahoe Fault receives a fraction of the attention given to the San Andreas or the Cascadia subduction zone. Because it has not ruptured in living memory, it does not command headlines or drive emergency planning budgets. Researchers describe a persistent gap between the scientific understanding of the risk and the public response to it. Funding for monitoring and preparedness remains modest relative to the potential consequences. But geological indifference is not the same as geological safety. Faults that accumulate strain eventually release it. This is not a theory, it is a physical certainty. The rocks along the West Tahoe Fault have been compressed and locked for over 40 centuries. Every year without a rupture adds more energy to a system that cannot hold it forever. The question has never been whether the fault will break. The question is when, and how much of that stored energy will be unleashed in a single, violent moment. This is the one truth that no scientist disputes. Stand on the shore of Lake Tahoe on a calm summer evening, and you will see one of the most serene landscapes on Earth. The water stretches 22 miles between granite peaks glowing amber in the fading light, and the smell of pine resin drifts down from the forests above Incline Village. Kayakers glide across the surface, children play on the sand. It is, by every visible measure, a paradise restored. But beneath that restored surface, the picture is very different. 500 meters below the waterline, the West Tahoe Fault sits in darkness, compressed under billions of tons of water and millennia of accumulated strain. The microtremors continue. The instruments record. The scientists watch. No one can say when the stillness will end or what the first sign will be, but every researcher who has studied this basin understands the same uncomfortable truth. The strain beneath Lake Tahoe is not decreasing, and the water above it is not getting lighter. The lake looks calm tonight, but so does every fault right up until the moment it moves. How much longer can the surface hold?